topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
You're listening to the ASQ podcast for a transformational approach to life and leadership, blending soul wisdom with modern insight to create outer impact.
All right.
Welcome, everybody.
Welcome, everyone, to another live show of the ASQ podcast.
Yes.
How you
Super
doing?
excited. I'm good. Had a nice holiday.
Good.
Thanksgiving was good.
Yeah.
I'm for some reason feeling a little nervous right now. I don't know why.
I don't
Because I'm
know.
excited.
I don't know why you feel nervous.
Maybe because
at all.
I've been chilling for a couple days.
Yeah, I think kind of like getting back into the groove
Yeah.
of things. You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
kind of like, yeah. But today we have an amazing guest. You know, and it's interesting because professionally, I've known Ashley since like 2008, 2009. I mean, she's
Wow.
been in and out of the community. I've been in and out of the community. But I'm so intrigued because there's so many things that's happened with her professionally and personally.
Oh, yeah.
And
She's got an
yeah, we're
amazing
gonna get
story.
into that. So
Yeah,
I'm
we
looking
are.
forward to this. You know, so
Look at me.
buckle up, Soul Questers. Let's get
Let's
to
do
it.
this.
Yeah,
All right.
let's get to it.
Now that you already threw her name out there. Anyway,
Oh, okay.
today we are honored to welcome someone whose leadership is woven into the very fabric of our community. Ashley Mock Kidd is the Chief Operating Officer of the Children's Services Council of St. Lucie County. In this role, she helps shape strategic initiatives, strengthen partnerships, and support the well-being of families across our area. She's a St. Lucie County native who's close to or chose to give back to her community and lead with heart. And as a parent and professional, she brings on an honest and refreshing perspective on balancing purpose, family, and serving others.
All right.
Welcome, Ashley.
Yeah. Let me do the clapping. Hold on.
Thank you. I don't know if I can live up to all that stuff you said, but
You already do.
You
you
already do.
You didn't do the clapping.
No.
We have a soundboard and we do like different
my
sounds for-
my producing skills are not of part today.
I memorized that entire intro, so not
I'll
bad.
hire you the next time I need one, Jessica.
Yes.
Yay.
Yeah. She's excellent at those things. So Ashley, first and foremost, thank you so much for being here. We really, really appreciate you taking your time.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited about this conversation. Oh my gosh.
I'm excited to hang out with you guys.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So let's start like, you know, at the beginning. And again, this conversation is about like your personal development. So tell us a little bit about, you know, why you chose this field and what led you to this career, because you've been with CSC for a long period of time. Like what led you there?
So it's a really funny story and probably not at all what you expect, but I went to college. I actually just had this conversation with my daughter recently. I thought I wanted to be a speech therapist. Like I went into speech pathology. I went to the University of South Florida in Tampa in that program in communicative disorders. And I failed anatomy twice. And after you fail a class in your degree program twice, you have to pay out-of-state tuition,
Oh,
or you have to transfer like to a different program. So I literally went to my advisor and said, what can I do? Like, what are my choices?
Mhm.
And she said, well, you've taken a lot of communications classes. Like, have you ever thought about public relations? And I said, no, like I was convinced this is what I was doing. And she said, well, I think mass communications would be a good pivot for you. And so that's what I did. And I got a job. I got a degree in mass communications, public relations, and who knew that it's exactly what I was meant to do this whole time.
Wow.
nice.
That is an interesting story.
Yeah.
Fork in the road.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. My mom jokes that when I was in kindergarten, I used to get my name, like, when they used to write your name on the board when you got in trouble, it was for talking. And now that's literally my job. So.
I love it.
Was there like because throughout life they tell us, you got to pick a career, you got to choose something, and this is what you have to do. When you came to that fork in the road, what was some of the emotions that went through you? And then also, because a lot of us don't want to ask for help, Like what pushed you to say, hey, I need some help here, and went to your counselor?
Yeah, I think for me it was I knew what I was doing wasn't right. It didn't
Okay.
feel good
Mhm.
anymore. And that's honestly probably why I wasn't putting a lot of effort into trying to make it happen.
Mhm.
And I think I knew that what she was telling me was the right thing to do.
Mhm.
So I had a lot of friends that were in that same sort of world at the time.
Mhm.
I was working in retail while I was going to school, and so a lot of what I was learning in retail was about relationships
Mm.
and how you communicate with people, and that's what I was really good at anyway. So it just kind of made sense to
Mm.
make that
Yeah.
transition.
Yeah. I couldn't see you doing anything else at this point.
Right?
Seriously.
Curious, where in retail did you work?
So I started working retail when I was 15 at the
Mm.
Gap.
Really? Which Gap?
Oh, I worked in Jensen. I
Oh,
actually worked at Orange Blossom before they
me
closed down.
too.
That's how old I am. Really?
You guys,
Yes.
did you guys
Who
know
was
each
your
other?
manager?
Oh my gosh. Look, come on. You're really testing my
Yeah,
I have no
yeah.
idea.
Listen, I worked at Orange Blossom, right? That was my
Did
first Gap job.
did
So I
you work
worked at
in
the.
Jensen?
I know I worked in the Vero Gap.
Oh, I didn't go to Vero. I went to Jensen and I worked there for a long time. And then
Mhm.
when I went to college, I transitioned to Tampa. So
Yeah.
I worked at University Mall right
Uh-huh.
next to University of South Florida. I ended up getting a job as an assistant manager at West Shore, also in
Ah.
Tampa. Yeah, I was all over.
You know what's interesting, right? And this is Sean says this all the time, how little you know about the people that you work with.
Yeah.
Because I worked at the Orange Blossom Mall. From the Orange Blossom Mall, I went to Vero. From Vero, I went to the Orange Blossom Square Mall in Orlando.
Oh,
And
yeah,
yeah, and I did the Gap internship there, and I was an assistant manager at the Florida Mall. So
yeah. Oh,
look
that's
at
hey,
yeah. So I was
who knew?
yeah, I was the EOS training,
And
you know,
look,
elements of selling.
and you're
Remember
both
that?
talkers. You're both
Yes.
talkers. Because he's a talker too. No, it's
Yeah.
serious. Like I
You know
think
what
those
though?
jobs.
Like I was actually my daughters and I were just talking about this
Uh-huh.
recently because we were talking about jobs. They're both about that age now, like looking into what they can do.
Yeah.
And I said retail was such a good learning opportunity because you had to figure people out.
Yes.
And you had to understand what they were in it for
Uh-huh.
and how to get them where they needed to be.
Yeah.
But it was really such a good learning opportunity to understanding people.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting that you would take that approach though, because both of you were young when you were doing this retail at the Gap, right? And to have that mindset to take from that experience and then translate it into future, right, is pretty amazing. Like saying this is probably a really good opportunity because I didn't. I was flipping hamburgers when I was 15 or 14. So there wasn't anything about communicating with anybody except for, you want more ketchup. Here you go. Here's a packet.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's really interesting that you'd have that presence of mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What let me ask you this, right? Because again, now I'm speechless. I'm completely speechless because again, Sean is complete. Yeah, Sean was completely right. It's like you don't know, and again, it's like we follow such similar paths, and we've learned. I mean, I learned so much. Like I said, I was the elements of selling training for the Orlando area at that time, and so I'm just kind of like baffled when it comes to that. So tell me about how that experience helped you in your self development as a person. And now what are the skills that you're using from all those experiences into what you do right now?
So it's funny. I think I've always been sort of, you get told that you're an extrovert when you're outgoing, and people just say that and you're like, okay, yeah, sure, I am totally. But I think in retail, it's one of those things where like, you don't have a choice. Like those people are coming in, whether you want them to or not, and you have to talk to them in order, to get that end result. I loved being on the floor and feeling like I was helping somebody. So I loved aspect of shopping with a person and
Mhm.
like trying to solve their problem, like, because they come in with a problem, they need
Yep.
this thing or
Yes.
this outfit or whatever it is.
Right.
I loved feeling like I was solving that problem for them or with them. I hated being behind the cash wrap. I hated doing the register. Like, I am not a numbers person, so like that was not it for me. But I loved getting to know people and like why they were shopping and what they were shopping for. And I think that really did transition me into like how I function now in my life. Like, I love asking people questions and learning about them and why are you doing this and why did you decide that? It's just figuring it out for me. And I think that's what I was doing when I was selling too.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That was part one of the training manual. Ask open-ended questions, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So how does this lead you to CSE?
So very funny. So I was still in Tampa at the time. I actually had moved from the Gap to Bombay, which was a furniture store at the time. I was an assistant manager at the furniture store and decided that I was ready to come home. Like, I was ready to come back to Fort Pierce. After college, some of my friends had started to settle down. I was thinking about that life, like what did that look like? And I wanted to do that here. So I transitioned to the Bombay store that was here in Jensen Beach at the time. It was really small, much smaller than the store that I was working in, but it was something.
Mhm.
And we were out to dinner one night. I was with my mom and dad and ran into Kathy Basile, who at the time was the executive director of the Children's Services Council. My mom had known her for an eternity because my mom was an educator and Kathy was as well, and had been her principal at one point. They had worked together for a long time. So we were out at dinner. My mom ran into Kathy and was like, oh my gosh, Ashley just moved home. She's looking for a job. Do you know of anything? Her degree's in communications, blah, 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 blah. So we have this conversation and Kathy says, I don't know of anything, but I work with all of these nonprofits. If something comes up, I'll give you guys a call. She called the next week because her assistant was pregnant and got put on bed rest. And this was, pre-COVID, nobody could just work from home like we all do now. So she needed somebody to come in and work as her office assistant. And so she said to me, she was like, I understand that you have a college degree. I understand this is probably not glamorous, not what you thought you would be doing. But if you can come help us through this transition, I'll make you, like, we'll build a communications job here for you.
Yeah.
I know that we need one. We're growing. This is what we need to do. And so that's what I did. So I went in as the assistant, as like the executive assistant, which I think was also really lucky because I learned everything from the bottom. And that, that's a unique perspective that you don't always get when you come into a new place. And so I worked in that capacity until Paula came back from maternity leave. And then we kind of built a communications position. And it was the first time really that Children's Services Council had done any outward facing communications or marketing. And so it was really fun because I got to build it all.
From scratch.
Yeah.
Talk about creative juices flowing in that moment, right? For you? That must have been awesome.
It was a little overwhelming, to be honest. And I was really young. Like, I know Sean jokes all the time that I started this job when I was in middle school, but like still, like, in the capacity of the work environment, I was really young in that office space. I remember, I don't know if you guys remember Jerry Hefner. He still does a lot of training in town, like best places to work and stuff like that. But he was hosting a workshop and somehow I got roped into going with our HR person. And I had only been working there for like maybe 6 or 8 months. And he was talking to the audience about the way that the different generations functioned in the workplace. And he literally made a comment like, there's probably no millennials in the audience because they don't want to work anyway.
Oh, wow.
And so our HR director like elbows me and raises my hand. And I was like, what are you doing? And he was like, wait, you're a millennial? And I was like, I am. But I was the only one in that room.
Wow.
And so it was interesting, you know, to be in that space and be as young as I was. But it was what I wanted to do. So
yeah.
That's awesome.
You know, you said a lot of things about in just this brief conversation about all the things that you went to school, and you segue into communications, but it always seems like you're carrying things that you've learned with you. Can you talk about the value of personal development, but also from the point of view of learning from experiences and your philosophy based on that?
Yeah. Wow. Okay. That's a big question. I think there are a lot of missed opportunities that people have because they think that they don't have enough experience or they aren't an expert in this field, or whatever it is. And I think one of the things that I really have learned, and it's probably from my parents, if I had to like go back and pinpoint it, is that it's a lot better to do something scared or unknowing, than to not give yourself the opportunity to pursue it.
Yeah.
Because you don't have the experience to. And so I think maybe one of the reasons that I ask people a lot of questions or want to learn about them is because I want their experiences too. I want to like soak up as much of learned experience as I can. And so I think that maybe is one of the reasons that I really like communicating and talking with people, because I love learning about them. My husband jokes all the time that like, if I get, it's probably my ADHD, but like if I get into a new subject or on a new topic, I literally absorb everything that I can about it. I become an expert in it because I need to know all of the things. And I feel that way about people too, because I think it's just like, you'll never be able to experience everything that everyone around you has.
That's true.
But as much as you can soak up from them, like, why not?
Yeah. You know, that's an amazing answer right there. So listen, when we come back, because we're going to go into a little break right now, but when we come back, I want to talk about two things. Number one is about being a mother, right? And number two is about your community impact. So we're going to take a brief commercial break, and then we're going to touch on those two things as to how all these learnings translated into those two aspects. So we'll be right back after this commercial break.
You're listening to the ASQ podcast, a transformational approach to life and leadership. Too many of us chase clarity but feel scattered. What if your challenge isn't failure, but the threshold before expansion? Each month, we gather live for a transformational webinar where contraction becomes coherence. Register today and receive your Soul GPS journal. Begin your journey within. Scan the QR code or visit asqempowerment.com.
At ASQ, we need one platform to do it all. Funnels, emails, forms, and automations. That's why we run our entire ecosystem on Go High Level. It is the tool that saves us time and builds real connections with our audience. We believe in it, we use it, and we recommend it. Start your free trial through our affiliate link today.
We don't just find podcast guests, we find aligned voices. That's why ASQ uses Podmatch to connect with leaders and creators worldwide. It's how we've built relationships that shape life and culture. If you want meaningful conversations, join through our affiliate link today or scan the QR code. Find your match on Podmatch.
Leaders are burning out. Teams are disengaged. Cultures are fragmenting. ASQ Empowerment transforms leadership and culture from the inside out. Our Coherence Quest bridges ancient wisdom with modern neuroscience, helping organizations align, adapt, and thrive. Start with an organizational snapshot assessment. So, visit now at asqempowerment.com and schedule your briefing today. ASQ Empowerment. Lead your life. Shape your culture. Begin within.
Welcome back. You're listening to the ASQ podcast with Dr. Jesse and Omar Ferreira, a transformational approach to life and leadership.
All right, so we're back with Ashley.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. I'm still stuck on the fact that we're both Gap alumni. Yeah, I'm still stuck.
We
with
talked
that.
about it during the commercial.
It's like,
Hey,
like small world.
you know what my favorite? There were 2 times working at the Gap that were my favorites. Right, it was during the holidays with all the different songs, right? Because we used to get the special tapes, and then during Valentine's time, So, anyways,
I loved it. I mean, I again, like I still have relationships with people from my stores in Tampa, like
wow.
the managers that I had there that I still talk to.
Well, that's awesome.
That's
awesome.
amazing.
Yeah, I was referred to as Gap Boy.
Yes.
After a certain point.
When I
yes.
first met Omar, he was Gap Boy. He had all
Yeah.
these
That's all
Gap
he wore,
clothes.
right? Like that's all you wore.
That's
'cause
all
It
I
is.
wore.
Yeah.
The 50% discount.
Yeah,
Is
exactly.
right. No.
I will say it skewed my view of denim for life. Like I will never. I'll always have a problem.
Yeah. Sandblasted. Anyways, going back to so one of the things that really is interesting about you and your husband was this idea of creating a family. And can you talk to us a little bit about what you did when it came to that? Because again, coming from a point of view of a person that is given to the community, a big aspect of that self-development is creating a family and nourishing that family.
Yeah.
Take us through that process.
Yeah. So, my husband, I think almost immediately when my husband and I met, we knew that even before we were going to get married, we knew that we were going to have kids. That was something that we talked a lot about. And we had a lot of challenges with that. We went through fertility process for about 4 years before we really sat down and said, okay, we're at the end of this road now. Mm-hmm. I remember we had a conversation with our fertility doctor, and at the time, IVF was costing just about as much as a private adoption.
Yeah.
And so we really got to the point where it was like we were making a choice. It was either going to be pursuing IVF or pursuing an adoption. And at that point, I just personally, the drugs and everything that you have to go through and the toll that it takes on your body, I was just done. I was completely tapped out. And I said to him, I was like, I can't do anymore. I just can't. And so we had conversation with a lot of friends who had done foster care adoption. And at the time we were like, that's not the right move for us. We can't, that's too much. That's too big. So we opted to pursue a private infant adoption. We raised a lot of money. We spent a lot of money. We did get matched with a birth mom who was located a couple hours away. We had the opportunity to meet her, and we're working through an agency and an attorney. And unfortunately, right before the holidays, all of that fell through. It wasn't a good fit. It wasn't a good situation. We lost a lot of money in that process because you don't get that back. And we really, I think, decided that it happened right before the holidays. And I think we kind of decided, let's see what happens through the end of the year. And then in January, we'll regroup and figure it all out. Right. I was Christmas shopping and ran into an old friend of mine who was a foster parent. Mm-hmm. And she had kids with her at the time. And I didn't know that. But we were talking in the store, in the middle of the grocery store. We were talking, and I just really felt like something put her in my path for a reason. And it was 100 times we had said no to foster care adoption. And this 101st time, something was different. And so I came home And I said to my husband, I was like, I think we need to look into this. Like it's something that we don't know enough about to say no to yet. And so after Christmas, we looked. At the time, there were a handful of agencies that were doing foster care licensing. We talked to all of them and ended up going with the one that had the classes the fastest. Because, you know, once I learned everything, I needed to do it right away.
Yeah.
Of course.
And so we started our licensing classes almost immediately. It was literally the middle of January. And my husband was very vocal in our classes about sibling groups and how important he felt it was to keep sibling groups together. He had some experience in his childhood with siblings being removed and put back into the home and some things like that. And so he was very vocal about it in class when we talked, and they ended up calling us after the second. There's supposed to be 4 classes. They called us after the second class and they were like, we need to talk to you guys. And I was terrified because, you know, you're going through all of this paperwork and the home study and all of this background screening. And I was like, what happened? Like something came back and we're in trouble and what's going on?
Yeah.
And so they called because there was a sibling group that had been identified that was moving to permanency. So, you know, through the process, they try to reunite the children with their biological family. If that doesn't work out, they move to a permanency plan, and that looks different. But for this sibling group, they were looking for adoption. At the time, there was no home in St. Lucie County that could take all of them.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
They were in foster homes at the time. They were separated. The girls were together, but my son was in a different home. They had never lived together.
Wow.
Wow.
And so there was no home at the time that could take all 3 of them. And so they called. So the phone call was kind of funny because she was like, okay, I need to talk to you. Are you sitting down? And I'm like, yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
And she said, we've identified this sibling group. We want to talk to you guys about it. You know, the process is probably going to move quickly because of how far along they are in the process. What do you think? And I said, well, like, what else can you tell me? And she said, I don't know their specific ages, but I know they're under 5.
Yeah.
And she was like, there's 3 of them. And I said, I'm sorry, there's how many?
Yeah.
There's 3. And I said, oh, wait, I thought when you said siblings, you meant 2. I thought we were talking about 2 children. And so I called my husband and I said, here's what I know. And his response to me was, is one of them a boy?
Oh.
I said, yes. And he said, then say yes.
Oh, wow.
And so that is literally how fast it happened. We were not even done with our licensing at the time. Like we were still going through the classes. We still had classes to finish, but they started doing our home study simultaneously so that we would be close to done by the time our classes were done. And that was February, the end of February. They moved in with us in April.
Oh, wow.
So it happened really
Very fast. Yeah.
really quickly. We had this great transition plan in place where we were going to do some overnight visits and do some weekend visits and whatever. That did not work out like that because does it ever in child welfare? No.
No, never.
But I think it worked out the way that it was supposed to. And we ended up finalizing their adoption in 6 months and 1 day.
Oh, wow.
So the same year. So their adoption was finalized in September of that same year.
That's amazing.
It was
how did that? I mean, I was tearing up a little bit because it's such an emotional story and I've really never heard it like that, but I did follow you on social media and we were friends and stuff. So I knew about this and it was such an amazing thing to watch. Right. my question to you is, now you go from 2 to 5. What was that like for you? And also, professionally, because like this is a huge shift, not only personally, but also professionally.
So the true answer is I don't remember. and Rob and I joke about this often, but like I truly think that there's like 18 months where I don't really recall what happened.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
I will say, at the time, just speaking professionally, obviously working at the Children's Services Council, you have an expectation that they are at the forefront of family building and child, support. And they absolutely were. And that was a huge help at the time. I took a few weeks off. I didn't take like a full, what you would consider like a maternity leave off, but I will say, and a huge shout out to Sean, he has since amended our policy so that an adoptive mom could take a full maternity leave off.
Oh, that's awesome.
We probably are one of the only organizations that has that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've never heard of that before. Yeah, that's awesome.
And so that was something that he did, I think, in response to it. They so accommodating to me and to our family, and just everything that they did for us, that they still do for us. But it was a big adjustment, and it was, when the kids came to us, they were 18 months, 3 and 5.
Wow.
And so it wasn't just an adjustment in our household. It was an adjustment in our day-to-day, because, the girls were still in childcare. They weren't yet in like school. And Ricky was a baby. He was an infant, and
still doing diapers.
Yeah. And so it wasn't just navigating the change in our like household, but also, they had experienced trauma, and a big shift like that in their day to day impacted each of them differently too. And so it was a lot. It was a lot. And there were a lot of people that were like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine like going from 0 kids to 3 kids, but we didn't know what 1 kid was like.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really like, we didn't have anything to compare it to. So it really was all that we knew was going from 0 to 3. It was crazy. Yeah, sure. But, it happened the way it was supposed to.
Let me ask you this, because this is one of the things, like working in your field, you see how much damage kids go through, how much trauma they go through, and what you've done and your husband have done is kind of like resonates to give a family and a community to these 3 kids. Can you tell us, do you ever think about the impact that it did for the community and for them, that you gave them a safe home? Do you ever think about that as part of like, something that's heroic? Do you ever think about it like that?
It doesn't feel that way. I mean, I think for me, and I would say for him too, I think it was always just a matter of, we wanted to be parents, and however it happened, it happened. And even when we went into foster care, a lot of the conversation in foster care is like, oh, you have to give these kids back, or you might have to. And I really hate that. I hate that is part of the conversation, because they aren't property.
No.
And any time that you get to spend with them, you should be grateful for, regardless of what the situation is. The kids who are in foster care are in that situation to no fault of their own.
Correct.
They've done nothing wrong. And so much of what happens to them is devastating, that if I can give them one good day in my home, great. Like that's all they need. One good day, one good person. And so it's funny, Omar, like people are always like, oh, you saved them, you did this. But I don't feel that way. I don't, it doesn't feel like that. And I think too, it's funny because like once you see our family together, I don't think other people would feel that way either. I think it's like, you know, it's just like a normal familial relationship.
Yeah.
And so I really feel like, and this is going to sound cliche and I hate that, but like, I really feel like they fulfilled something that we were looking for.
Yeah.
And so I don't feel like the impact is that great or that like we're superheroes for what we did. Literally anyone can do what we did. And yeah, there's a lot of work involved, but there's a lot of work involved in any parenting journey. And, you know, you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going to happen.
No, absolutely.
Can I just ask a question really quick? I'm curious about this. I know you what you just talked about now kind of segues into this question that you've been vocal. You know, when I have been with you, you've vocalized motherhood and your experiences with the kids and whatnot. And it's really beautiful to listen and watch because you're being so transparent and honest about the difficulties and the challenges and the obstacles and the beautiful times too, right? What is it for you that you've learned about giving grace to yourself as a mother and to parenthood, and also not only as a parent, but also as a professional in your career? Just how does that all translate? What does that grace look like for you?
I think I'm still figuring it out. I think a lot of us are probably struggling with that often. I was joking with someone the other day. I have a girlfriend actually from high school who did a podcast with someone, and she was talking about work-life balance. And she was like, I don't know why we call it that. Like, that's not what it is. No. We're not balancing anything. It's literally give and take all the time.
Yeah.
But I do think that I remember this is actually funny. And it wasn't my girls, it was my niece. When Rob and I started dating, he was really close he had a niece that he was living with at the time. She was like 2 or 3, and she spent a lot of time with us. And I distinctly remember one day in the car, Rob and I were both driving home from the same place, but she was with me in the car, and he beat us home. Like he managed to make it home before we did. And when I pulled into the driveway, I made a comment. I was like, oh man, like we should have left earlier. So we got here first. And from the back seat at like 3 years old, she patted my shoulder and she was like, Aunt Ashley, sometimes it's okay to lose. And I was like,
oh my God, lessons from a 3-year-old.
I know. I was like, oh my gosh. And I think that is something that like I've remembered in its context, because I'm not always getting it right.
Yeah.
And I think as the kids have grown and, you know, the challenges that we're encountering are different now. I've had to remind myself and them too, as, you know, as they get older and they understand now, like I'm a mom for the first time, just like you're a 12-year-old for the first time.
For the first time. Yeah.
And so I'm not going to do it all right. And when I screw up, I'm going to apologize to you and we're going to talk about it. But like, I haven't done this before. And so maybe I will screw it up. I don't know. But I think that has sort of kind of trickled over into my work life too. Sean will like, I am a little bit of a perfectionist, and I don't like to do things that I'm not good at. And I don't like to turn over products that I don't feel like are 100%. And I really hate when people find mistakes in work that I have done. And I think part of that learning in your professional life is that like, it's okay to screw up as long as you fix it. Like, fix it fast and move on, because it's not perfect. And, you know, no part of it is ever going to be perfect.
Right. Yeah. It's that idea of taking accountability for it. Right. But also being transparent as a leader to say, I made a mistake and it's okay. And we're going to fix it and we're going to move forward. And so I think that's really beautiful, both in your personal and your professional, you know, life.
Yeah.
People talk a lot about leadership, right? And they talk about different tactics and things like that and the other. From a standpoint of a mother, right? Because that's a big aspect of leadership that most people overlook, right? What would you say is your philosophy? I mean, you alluded to that idea of acknowledging when you make a mistake and letting the kids know that, hey, I'm human too. I'm going through this stuff. Can you talk about your philosophy or your approach when it comes to leading your family, and how that segues into actually leading in your work?
Whew. That's big. I think a lot of, well, and I think it's different now too. I think it's different. My kids now are 12, 14, and almost 16. And that is a lot different than when we got them.
I guess they are. Love me some teens.
We are in the thick of some really heavy stuff.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things, and I know it's been discussed a lot in parenting recently, is this like let them theory. And I think my approach maybe, or my viewpoint of it, is a little different, because for us, and a lot of the stuff that we're dealing with now, it's, I can't intervene for you all the time anymore. Like, I feel like when they're young, you're in this like constant protection, like, don't do this because you're going to get hurt, or don't do this because you're going to, whatever. But as they get older, you're like, hey, screw up, figure it out. Like, I can't save you from yourself anymore. And I think that's one of the like ugly places that we're experiencing right now. And that's really hard as a mom to sit and watch what looks like it could be a train wreck.
Yes. So hard.
And you just have to kind of sit there and go, oh man, like, it's so close to happening.
Yeah. What kind of restriction do you actually have to be able to allow your children to go through the train wreck?
Yeah, it's tough. And I think, we're in it right now. Like, we're having some of that right now. And two, your kids are so different. Like, individually, they're so different. And so what works for one of them does not work for the other one. And you just kind of have to figure it out as you go. And again, I think it goes back to that, like, kids are so much more aware than I think we give them credit for.
They are.
And honestly, I really feel like kids who have experienced trauma are even more aware. And I identified that in our kids so early, because, and it was dumb things that, like, my daughter would say at 5 years old, why are you driving this way today if I took a different route to school? And I was like, what are you talking about? And she was like, this is not the way that we go. But she was so observant about everything around her, because she had to be, that it was, they're so much more in tune with than what we give them credit for. And I think being able to have transparent conversations with them at where they're at, like, developmentally appropriate, really kind of helps them figure out where they're at in life too. And that, I think, has been something that I feel like we have done well, to have those conversations with them. Rob and I grew up very differently. And I think that sort of has helped in our parenting aspect, because I have this like white picket fence ideal of what it should look like, and he has a very different perspective. And so for us to be able to kind of come together and be like, okay, maybe it's not like that, but maybe it's not like this. I think has been really helpful.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question? And this isn't to end this discussion. I'm just curious. What's one thing that you wish other parents knew that you had to learn the hard way, and how do you promote that in your organization at CSC? Like, is it something that you're able to promote?
Youch, Jess. What?
I'm sorry.
I, 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 Well, I think one of the things that that is important for all of us to understand as parents is that it's okay to not be okay with where you are. And we talk a lot in our organization and within our programs about like asking for help doesn't mean that you've failed.
Yep.
And I think that is something that you, as a foster parent, you had to learn really quickly, because it was so much more than just parenting.
Yeah.
As a foster parent, there was bureaucracy and systems and red tape and rules and all of this stuff. And so you really lean on the people who have done it before you. And I think that is something that we try to encourage in our programs is, this sort of like support group aspect that I think we got away from for a while, but is coming back. I mean, like the idea that you're not the first person that's experiencing this problem. Right. Somebody's done it before you and can tell you like what worked for them and what didn't, but sort of like that group aspect of whatever the approach is. We leaned on the foster care parent group so heavily because it was just like, you just have a lot of questions and not discounting anyone's parenting experience, but a lot of them didn't have the same situations that we were having. Like their kids didn't have trauma. Their kids weren't removed from a home. They had always had two loving parents in their world. And so, I think the foster parent community is really close because they had to be. And I think that's something that in our programming, at least from what I've seen, the programs that are really successful, that's something that they have.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. This has been so aligning, right? Because we typically think about leadership primarily as business and the work that we do, but you just brought up that idea of leadership when it comes to the family, that idea of constantly growing and adjusting based on that. As we come to the end of our conversation, are there any final words or any final tidbits that you would like to share with families, with parents, with business people in regards to constantly growing and learning and allowing yourself that peace to be able to say, I don't have to know everything?
Gosh, I wish I had perfected that, but I think it's really just a matter of, and sometimes that takes like a lot of self-reflection, right? Like where I'm at and what I need. I'm a lot more confident in my parenting than I was 10 years ago when, when the kids first came, and I probably looking back would do things differently, but that doesn't mean that I did them wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I think it's just a matter of like figuring out the balance of confidence and being confidently wrong. Whatever choice
That's
you're
great.
making.
I love that.
Because
I can feel that from you now.
Like, maybe what I told my daughter was a far step from the truth, but if I delivered it confidently to her, did she know that? I don't know. Maybe not. But I think it is, there's a lot of self-reflection that goes into making sure that the journey that you're taking feels good. And there's some parts of it that aren't going to, and that's okay too. But I think to your question, I think understanding that there are groups and there are resources and there are people that have done it before you that will walk next to you through it. Finding that group or finding that couple of people that can kind of walk alongside you is really important because nobody wants to do this alone.
No. Well,
that.
Ashley, thank you so much for being here today. I mean, this has been amazing. From being Gap alumni to everything in between. So
Omar and I will always have that now.
Yes, we'll always have that connection.
You know what? We are always going to be falling into the Gap. So.
Good one.
Well, thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for sharing. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ashley.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Absolutely. All right, Soul Questers, we'll be right back after this brief break.
You're listening to the ASQ podcast, a transformational approach to life and leadership. Coming this December, A Soul's Quest, a transformational approach to life and leadership. A book that bridges science, wisdom, and lived experience so you can lead with coherence. Don't miss the launch. Join the waiting list today, scan the QR code, or visit asqempowerment.com.
At ASQ, we believe every creative deserves a safe space to share. That's why we use and proudly recommend Gnostic TV. It's where your content won't be silenced and your vision can flourish. Sign up through our affiliate link and be part of this Freedom Center platform. Create boldly on Gnostic TV. Across boardrooms, nonprofits, and communities, too many leaders are quietly burning out. They know what's not working, but not how to turn inertia into momentum. That's where I come in. I help leaders, fathers, and organizations move from quiet crisis into coherence, so cultures can thrive from the inside out. Book me today at asqempowerment.com and bring coherence to your next event.
Welcome back. You're listening to the ASQ podcast with Dr. Jesse and Omar Ferreira, a transformational approach to life and leadership.
All right, so we're back with this was a really good episode. I mean,
good.
we say
They're
that all the
all
time.
good.
They're all good, but
They're all good, but
but
Ashley just brings a different energy, and
Yeah.
it was just, oh my gosh, her story is amazing.
And this is one of the things that is underlying. It's like, of people, but how much do you really know them,
Oh my
right?
God,
And
yeah.
and I
That's a
think,
good takeaway.
yeah, that's one of the biggest takeaways that I have, because besides kind of like sharing into the gap, my parents were foster parents, they adopted
Yes.
kids,
Yep.
so that whole world, I understand it as well.
Yep.
But it's good to see that. So what was some of your takeaways?
One of the things that really stands out for me, and this is going to be is the total,
Mhm.
takeaway, because there was a few things, but the biggest thing was, I love how Ashley is so transparent about being confidently wrong
Mhm,
sometimes
mhm.
and seeking
Mhm.
help and understanding that she doesn't know everything. I think oftentimes we're so tied up with shame and guilt and what are people going to think, and all these different thoughts that go through us that keep us from reaching out for help. Right. And she just didn't allow those things to sort of take over. She really relied on other people and their experiences to do what she was doing, and continues to do that as a parent and as a professional.
Yeah, there was two things for me. Number one was that idea, that instinctive thing that we drive, that we have for connection, right? And wanting a family. And I know that a lot of people are in their society kind of like against, we don't want any kids or anything like that. But there's a beauty of connection, which is one of our primal drives to share in that direction, even though we don't know what the outcome is going to be. So it's kind of like seeing that desire come to life, and then being able to positively impact 3 young lives, but also consequently be an example for a lot of people. That stood out for me. The other part that stood out for me was that idea of connection to community and tapping into individuals, because you don't know everything, and it's okay to not know. But one of the things that throughout her conversation was that idea, I don't know, but I'm going to go ahead and find out.
Yep.
Right. I'm going to go ahead and look for an answer, from changing careers to looking into different aspects, to like realizing, well, this is not going to work. I'm going to, and then suddenly things happen. But that idea of looking, connecting, and then being able to continually grow and allowing that growth to happen, because that's life. Life is not a straight line.
No, it is not. It's definitely
so-
an evolving experience.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
yeah.
So, well, we want to thank you all for tuning in today and
Hopefully you
listening
all
to
enjoy
this.
this.
Yeah, this was very enjoyable for me, selfishly speaking. That's fine by
Selfishly
me.
here too.
Right. So thank you. And for more, please visit us at asqempowerment.com. That's asqempowerment.com. And remember to
Lead your life.
shape your culture and begin within. Have a good day.
Thank you for listening to the ASQ podcast. Remember to lead your life, shape your culture, begin within. Visit us at asqempowerment.com and join the movement.